Hey, what's up, guys? This is Desert Demolition from 1995. Check out the fluid animation and clear sound effects. Blue Sky was known mostly on the Genesis for the Vector Man games, so a couple of the later, really polished titles for the Genesis. Great title screen right here. I wish there was a character in the middle, but besides that, it looks great and the music sounds really accurate to the old cartoons. Um, and right there, the visual gag was something that would always happen in the old cartoons. They would freeze on screen like that and do these kind of comical definitions under the characters that were not real. So yeah, everything looks very accurate to the old cartoons. I looked up the dates of the original creation of Looney Tunes, and it was from 1930 through 1969, so the 30s through the 60s. So as a kid of the 80s, I was growing up with these old cartoons from past decades, and it was awesome. I loved them. So let me just run into it right here. You can choose to be either character, um, and there were a few other. Love the sound effects. It's kind of some crazy instrument sound effect, like from an orchestra. Um, yeah, they basically had classical music providing the music for these old cartoons. It was great. Butts and Ladders. It's a reference to the board game Shoots and Ladders, but it's not a funny reference. But anyway, um, the stamps give you points, but unfortunately, I don't think it adds up to become an extra life or anything. I hope it does add up to become some kind of bonus life or something, an extra life or a continue or something. But I don't think it does. I think the stamps only add up to points that don't bring you anything. Um, so yeah, everything looks and sounds great. Very accurate to the old cartoons. Um, all of Wile E. Coyote's inventions and products that he tries here are directly from the old cartoons. So it's awesome how authentic it is. Um, as far as the gameplay, you can see a lot of unique elements, or at least in gameplay they're unique, but they're lifted right from the old shows, which is great. Here's some birdseed for health, uh, which is a nice touch. Nice way to have health in this game. Um, so there you can see if the coyote gets you, he just runs with you off screen real quick. You lose a little bit of health, but then you respawn right away. Then there's usually a pretty good amount of birdseed around the stage. So here you can see that the gameplay is based on Sonic 2 right there, which is awesome. I believe this is the most fun Roadrunner-based video game of the time up to this point. Um, and a lot of it is based on Sonic 2, at least for the giant loops that I was just running through. The other stuff, as far as trampolines and whatever, you could consider as unique elements, but oh, I can't get that one thing right there. Huh. Well, moving on. You can't actually waste much time in this game. The timer is pretty unforgiving, so you have to keep on getting the time icons if you can find them, and you can't really take your time to explore. Oh, I must have. Okay, I have full turbo already. That's what those are, turbo. Um, you can press B and get a speed boost, basically. Let's see. There we go. Oh, you can run through the cactus by doing that. I didn't realize that. That's awesome. Well, that really changes everything. That really improves my gameplay to know that. Huh. I didn't know you could become invincible basically by running. That's awesome. By using the turbo boost right here. So let's do it. Look at that. That makes the whole stage much more playable. That's awesome. So yeah, the catapult, the trampolines, these things could be considered as relatively unique elements of gameplay. Um, while a good amount of it is still based on Sonic 2, fundamentally. He runs almost as fast as him, and the reason I say Sonic 2 instead of just saying the Sonic series is because you can run off screen here, just like in Sonic 2, which is the only game in Sonic's series that you can run off screen. So, for being able to do that in this game, that really places it as based on that one specific Sonic game. And I love it. It's great. It's so unnecessary and so fun. Now, the music comes from your movements in this game. So if you stand still, there's just silence. There's no music whatsoever, except when you're moving. So that's how the music works in this game, and also in a few other uh, games for the Genesis that were based on the Looney Tunes show. Because in the show, there was basically classical music accompanying character actions. So the concept here is trying to recreate that, trying to recreate the characters' movements and actions being accompanied by classical music, basically. Um, I enjoy it. I think it works. I think it works nicely enough here. Um, when you are running fast, the music is coming together, so it's sort of a reward for moving fast. So I think it's cool, and I think it sounds pretty good. Sounds cheerful and upbeat and all that. Nice. So the timer is pretty tight for each stage, so you do have to race through. You are intended to race through as fast as possible, because if you do stop a little bit, you will run out of time. So that's why I keep on running through each stage so fast, because that's really what the developers intended. Just grabbing this timer icon right here. There we go. Now the springs are just like the Sonic games, of course. These horizontal style springs. The vertical springs are trampolines instead, so that's what's a little bit unique about this game. The birdseed, like I said, is right from the old cartoons, so it's just great how authentic everything is for the artwork in this game. Um, for most of it, I mean, there are the somewhat generic elements like the trampolines and the whatever. Some of the artwork is a little bit generic, but it works because the old cartoons had sort of a lot of general artwork of all different things, all different settings, and the old cartoons spanned every kind of setting, every kind of artwork, every kind of environment and setting. So the old cartoons did have trains. They had everything that you see here, as well as anything else you could come up with. They had city settings, they had farm settings, they had everything. So while some of the artwork here is a little bit generic, it still works for being in the Looney Tunes universe because of course they had generic looking trains and desert, etc. Like I said, the color usage is awesome, very accurate to the old cartoons, which had that sort of faded color look, just based on the time period. They had a subdued color palette, and this captures it really well. Yeah, those anvils attached to balloons. That's probably lifted directly from the old cartoons, most likely, or it's just the general generic style artwork that works just fine. Um, yeah, I think this stage is the first one that starts to ramp up the difficulty a bit over the previous few stages, um, which is fine. It makes sense. A stage based on a train is going to be more complicated gameplay, so it makes sense for the setting. Now, even though there were, you know, certain specific episodes based on trains, of course, and based on the desert and based on everything, basically, cowboys and Indians and whatever you could imagine. It was covered, in those decades that the Looney Tunes episodes were created. Um, so there certainly were trains in different episodes, but I'm not sure if it was for these specific characters, though. Like I know Bugs Bunny would get into a lot of Western themed episodes, um, which is what this is basically like here. Um, but I'm not sure if the Coyote and Roadrunner ever really were on a train in the shows. I don't know. Bugs Bunny, sure, and probably the other characters too. But um, these guys were a little bit more simplistic as characters, more than the other characters, because they didn't usually talk, either of them, for the most part. Um, they were just all about action. They were fun cartoons because of that. They were just nonstop uh, running and doing crazy stuff. For a couple minutes, the whole episode would be running around and um, just like what you see here. The Coyote tries different Acme products, different costumes and things, different gimmicks to try to get the Roadrunner. And he never does. His inventions and products usually blow up in his face in one way or another. So it's always a lot of comic relief and just a lot of speed for the movements of the visuals, and so they were just they were very fun cartoons. They were action packed and fast. Um, this does a great job recreating it. But yeah, I also kind of doubt that the Roadrunner and the Coyote were ever actually on a train. It's possible, but I'd be surprised to find out if it was in the original shows. Because, like I said, they were more simplistic characters. They stuck to running around the desert, as far as I know, in the natural landscape of the desert. The classic gag was that the coyote would always fall off of a cliff at the end, usually. And you would see it from an overhead shot. You would always see him falling down for a few seconds with an overhead view. So as he fell off a cliff in each episode throughout each episode. Now I'm not finding something here. Oh, you know what it is? I have to go down the ladder, I guess. Okay, not up the ladder, but down it. I appreciate it that there's the bird seed throughout each stage to rejuvenate your health. So nice. Hitting the springs and running super fast is a good time. Ah, it can be hard to dodge things because of how fast he runs. So you have to memorize each stage a bit. Um, get used to everything really well. Um, yeah, I don't know if the Roadrunner ever really got into a canon like that, um, but cannons were a classic, theme throughout the different Looney Tunes content, the different Looney Tunes content of the different characters, but not so much these guys, not so much the Coyote and Roadrunner. Um, yeah, they really stuck to running around the desert and the Coyote trying out different Acme products and different inventions, like he's doing here. But not so much with different settings like this. Um, However, they did have to build it up for the video game a bit. It's understandable. There's a lot of classic gameplay elements from different video games. Oh, I just have to get right over there and I'm almost dead. I can't get hit once more. Nice. If I had gotten hit once more, I would have died and had to restart the stage. So I'm not really sure how long this game is. It looks like I'm halfway through the game, and it's a game over. Well, I am going to keep playing because it is a fun game. Great ending screen right there. I'm imagining Porky Pig jumping out of the center of it to say that phrase himself. And yeah, the developers had to be proud of their work here to put their names out in the ending sequence like that. I think it shows that they were proud of their work here in this game. All right, I've said about everything I can, so now let's focus on just really getting through this. Oh, I was going to say, even though there are other Looney Tunes based games for the console that had this approach to the music, this kind of conceptual approach to the music, um, trying to recreate um, trying to recreate the music accompaniment of classical music in the original cartoon. Um, I think it works better here than the other attempts on the console. Um, and it works better because the Roadrunner is, getting his speed built up, and he's running for long periods of time at certain times. So the music comes together based on his movements. The music comes together better in this game than in the other Looney Tunes based games for the console. There was, for example, there was a Sylvester and Tweety game that had the same approach, but when your movement is more uh, when your movement is more intermittent than the music. I mean, when your actions are more intermittent, then the music doesn't come together as much as it does in this game here. I love it that he's invincible when when he goes running at top speed. I didn't know that until just a few minutes ago. That's awesome. Let me grab that timer power up right there, and I want to go through this giant Sonic 2 loop again. Gotta love this. Now, I believe this is the most fun and best looking and sounding Roadrunner game up until that point. Um, there were other games for other consoles up to that point, but they never really worked as well as this right here. Um, the NES had a game that was pretty notoriously bad for whoever had bought or rented the game at the time. Um, I remember renting it from the store as a young kid for a birthday party, for a sleepover birthday party, and it was just such a. I mean, it wasn't. I didn't like. I didn't dislike it necessarily, but it was a game that the graphics were hard to see. The graphics were really rough looking and had really small sprites and really tricky gameplay. I remember you had to sort of. It had sort of an overhead view of a track that you had to run around. I think it was kind of fun. I mean, you had to run around while being chased by the coyote on screen. Everything just looked really small and really rough looking, but it was still a little bit fun, but not very playable and not very easy to see what was what graphically. Well, this looks really just like the old cartoons. This really nails it right here on Genesis. Also, Super Nintendo had a few games, I think, a couple games, whatever. Um, at least it had a few Looney Tunes based games. I don't know if it had. I think it had at least one Roadrunner game. I think. Um, but if it did, it wasn't as good as this. This really was the best playing and best looking video game adaptation of the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote old cartoons. This is really the best up to that point, including Super Nintendo and NES, etc. Um, the gameplay engine runs very much like Sonic 2 once you're running fast, and uh, that was something that the console actually was really better at doing than the Super Nintendo. It had more colors, of course, but the Genesis actually was better at quickly scrolling the screen and having a lot of different objects flying around. So the Super Nintendo never really quite got an equivalent of the Sonic games, which this is right here, basically cloning the gameplay for about half of the gameplay of of this game here. Um, and I enjoy that. I appreciate that because it's a great game to to be inspired by and to rip the gameplay from. Like, just look at how fun this is. And it's nice to see that music system working out in this game. Uh, it really doesn't in the other Looney Tunes offerings on Genesis. The music doesn't really come together as much as it does in this game because you're just running for longer sections in this game. So the music has a chance to gel together like that. I think it's awesome. yeah, the Super Nintendo never really got an equivalent of Sonic gameplay like this game is showing here. That really was limited to the Genesis as a console because it was better at doing it. Basically, it really was fundamentally a faster console than the Super Nintendo. Um, hmm, I'm stuck. Oh, that's disappointing. Oh, here we go. All right, here we go. Also, I think it's awesome that this is based on Sonic gameplay because um, I always considered I always considered it that Sonic's classic running animation was probably mostly based on the running animation of the Roadrunner, with his feet going in that classic circle pattern, classic cartoon circle pattern of running really fast right there. I always figured that's what Sonic's animation was mostly based on, and it is a very universal cartoon animation. But I always thought it was mostly associated with the Roadrunner originally. So, I mean, because you would see it all the time in the Roadrunner cartoons. You would see it in any old cartoon, um, but you would see it all the time in the Roadrunner cartoons. So that's why it was mostly associated with that character, at least in my outlook, in my perspective of it. Sonic makes it more dramatic, of course, because he has those red shoes on. All right. Oh, that was the very end of the stage. You have to jump down and hit the switch, and then go to the end. All right. Let me make sure I use a speed boost in this stage once I get it, because it's getting easy to run out of time in this stage now. Oh, let me get that health right there. So it does get kind of intense, graphically, visually. Once you start running fast, everything is flying around pretty fast. I don't think it's quite as fast as the old Sonic games. Although maybe when you go at top speed, but it's not right here. You have to actually have a speed boost or have a spring to go at top speed. So maybe that's actually as fast as the Sonic games, but you don't get to do it most of the time. Actually, maybe it's possible that it's exactly the same speed as the old Sonic games. So, oh, I'm right there again. Wow. Running out of time on the very last stage. I mean, the very last screen of the stage. Um, yeah, I need to get some speed boosts in this stage and some timer power ups. Where was it? I just saw it flying around right there. Oh man, I just wasted time looking for a timer power up that I didn't get. Oh, I just saw one though right there, but he's right there. So there we go. Nice. Yeah, it doesn't seem quite as fast as the old Sonic games, but that might be because I'm not really um, as familiar as I need to be with this game yet. No, I just tried using the speed boost, but I got stuck on those things, so that's disappointing. Yeah, this is just his normal top speed. Then he's got the extra fast top speed of using the speed boost or using a spring. But yeah, it could be just the same as Sonic actually, because he had his normal top speed and then his extra fast top speed as well. See, here it goes pretty fast, pretty nice. Okay, how do you? There we go. You have to like hit it in a weird way. Like I don't know, you have to press the D-pad in a weird way to make him hit the switch. It's weird. All right, I have to move downward in this stage. I'm always trying to move upward, like jumping up the ladders, but you can't really. It's just what seems intuitive. That's all. All right, I think I just hit a switch in there. Like I always want to keep on trying to jump on stuff. All right, here we go. Yeah, that top speed really could be just as fast as Sonic, and it's fun that he's invincible here for going at top speed. Like that's a fun dynamic. Oh, I just missed that. All right. Cymbals crash when the coyote hit the wall or whatever. Yeah, they had sort of an orchestra creating music for these old cartoons. It was really great. All right. Oh, I keep missing that one power up, and I didn't know you could like go in that thing. I don't think there's really a benefit to doing it though. All right. At least I got to the end here. Tricky stage, man. Carl's Bad Caverns. Now, I'm not exactly sure what that's a reference to, like the name of the stage. Um, Although I think there are real caverns that are called Carl's Bad Caverns. Oh no, game over again. Huh. Yeah, so I think there are real I think there are real caves called Carl's Caverns or Carl's Bad Caverns or something. So I'll have to look that up later. They might even be in my state. They might even be in New York State because we do have a lot of crazy caves in certain areas. Um, but yeah, I mean, so the name of the stage might be a reference to real caves, but I don't know why. I don't know why the stages here would reference real life caves. So like, I don't know what the joke is supposed to be, or maybe that's it. Maybe it's just referencing real caves, and that's it. I don't know. All right, let me get that. Beautiful. I don't really need it in this stage here, very first stage, so I'll save it up. Oh man, I'm almost dead. Now, I don't want to play overly long for this game. I know I'm getting better at it the more I play it, though. So I know I'm playing faster. Oh, that was cool. I almost got that over there. Um, yeah, I know I'm playing better and faster overall. Uh, but I'll let this be my last attempt at getting through it. Basically, once I get a game over, I'll wrap it up at that point. So a bit challenging in different areas until you get used to it, get really familiar with each stage. That's fun. He runs into the dynamite himself. Yeah, he's definitely got more animations to go through. The coyote, uh, but the Roadrunner definitely has the more fun gameplay. I don't know if I was supposed to go that way or the other way. Yeah, I think it's the other way. So let's go. Nice. Oh man. The way that the coyote uh, respawns every little while on each stage, he really stays really close to the Roadrunner all the time. So he remains a presence all the time. Um, you can keep seeing those Acme boxes that he'll jump out of each time if he's not already on screen. Um, so the developers did a great job with managing to keep him on screen all the time. So he's always a challenge to avoid. All right, got the turbo. So fun. Ah, nice. Speed boost. All right. Nice. Running right off the screen. I love it. A lot of speed boost icons in this stage. Very fun. Now, as far as the birdseed in the original cartoons, the coyote was always trying to lure the Roadrunner with piles of birdseed like that. So um, it fits perfectly for a power up in this game. To be able to grab that birdseed without the Roadrunner actually grabbing you. But each time you do, it's kind of like you're foiling his plan by getting the birdseed that the coyote put out, apparently, without him being able to get you. Speed boost. Ah. Oh man, wasted a speed boost right there. There's a nice whistle sound effect here in this stage for the whistle of the train. It's kind of quiet, but it's a really good sound effect. All right, I just saw some bird seed. I gotta get it. I'm like afraid of the coyote grabbing me. There's that whistle sound effect, and I'm probably going to run out of time now just because I stopped to show that. I'm not sure what song is on that game over screen right there. It sounds vaguely familiar. Oh, you know what it is? It's that old childhood song that I never really knew what it was about. Like the old traditional song, Frere Jacques, Frere Jacques. You know, whatever that song is. Where are you? Whatever that song was. It was some kind of old traditional song that I never really knew where it came from as a kid. But yeah, I guess that was the game over music. Kind of strange, but I think it's one of those songs that the kids usually do vaguely know as they grow up with, like, one of those songs that they grow up with, sort of hearing it in cartoons and whatever. All right, I feel like I'm doing really well in this in this attempt here to get through the stage here. Then again, I am running out of time here, so. Oh, all right. I never know how to hit that. I got. All right, I got it. Nice. Ah, those are like stupidly easy to run into for not seeing them. All right, so they have one life. That might mean that I have a game over once I die one more time. So, or I might have one more life after that. Like zero might be a playable life. I'm not sure for this game. Um, that was never consistent in games at the time. But yeah, we'll see. I think I'm almost done either way. I would love to get a little bit further in the game before it's game over, but we'll see what I can do here. I am making progress though. I know I am getting used to the game and getting that bit of memorization of the stages. All right, Carlsbad Caverns again. Again, I don't know what the joke really is. All right, I'm dead. Let's see. All right, zero is a playable life. Um, but yeah, it refers to real life caves, I guess. But I don't know why. Oh man. Oh man, this stage is just like the first really impossible stage, I think. Oh man, it's like so claustrophobic. Alright. Game over, right? Yeah. Alright. Peace out. Is this that song? Maybe not. I guess not. The stage is funny that you can't run off of it. It ends automatically, or you could press start, but that's the only way to get off that screen. Alright. Peace out, guys.